Question. Real estate in California. What the Seriously, can someone help? What's an escrow? What's an ARM? What is an REO? What is pre-approval? Can I get pre-approval? Why is inventory so low? Why are interest rates so high? Oh, interest rates not so high? How low is low? How not so high is right.
Before you go down the road of questions, get expert help at championsofhome.com. California Association of Realtors. Who's your realtor?
This episode is sponsored by StoryLeads, the LinkedIn agency we each use separately to grow our brands. They're the team behind Monica's growth from about 500 followers to over 8,000 on LinkedIn, and they've helped me grow my presence significantly too. But it's not just followers. Our posts get real impressions that turn into referrals, new clients, and even speaking opportunities like podcasts and panels. Because the reality is, being a great lawyer doesn't matter if no one sees it. If you've got great stories, StoryLeads extracts them, turns them into content that actually sounds like you, and gets you seen by the exact people who can send you opportunities.
Welcome back. Today we are talking about Harvey Weinstein and the Me Too movement and really everything that's come of it basically since the first allegation all the way till today, because this is literally still happening in court today.
Yeah, as we're recording this, we're getting updates about different things happening in the New York case, specifically that there was just a mistrial on one of the counts in the New York retrial, which was the third retrial. So there's just been a whole slew of issues over and over again that's become, appellate issues that have brought this case back. And now potentially they're looking at a fourth trial if they want to retry the count that was a mistrial. Yeah. And this is just in New York. He was already convicted in California. So this is just a New York case. He's still in custody, and based on the fact that he just looks like shit, I don't think he's going to ever be out of custody. Yeah. So Harvey Weinstein, for people who don't know, is somebody who is known in the film industry as a producer, and he owned a company called Miramax and the Weinstein Company with his brother. But the allegations came about way later than when they actually happened. And they started happening or we can date it back to the 90s. And so what happened is that a lot of it started coming out. I would say around 2016, 2017 is when he got prosecuted. But a lot of the Me Too movement was happening in 2016 and around the time that he was being prosecuted. And that was because a lot of women were coming forward, obviously way later than when these things happened, stating that they were also sexually assaulted by Harvey Weinstein. So hence #MeToo. And so he was ultimately, and the New York conviction that was ultimately reversed in what we're talking about, he was supposed to serve a 23-year sentence as a result of these crimes, but that was reversed in April of 2024 as a result of, and I'm going to get legal, is because, and it's really because they allowed a witness who was not a part of a charged crime to testify to acts against her. And so the defense's argument was that you really are bringing this person forward to disparage my client's character before the jury and not to show, which would be the appropriate reason to present any sort of bad act. And or, an independent witness if they were actually independently there. But the only reason that they would be able to show that is to show motive, intent, modus operandi, whatever it is. And there's specific exceptions that allow you to get into bad acts, and it's only for a limited purpose. So it was reversed, and it wasn't a complete, the court did not agree. It was a 4-3 split for New York's highest court to overturn that conviction, which is a big deal because, there was clearly not a full agreement on the way that went down. But going back in time, talking about who he is, I got into it a little bit. He was Hollywood royalty. I mean, he was Hollywood elite. And this is we get into a common pattern that we've discussed on this show in other episodes. You start thinking about these guys that have almost unchecked power in their sphere of the world and what they do and what they focus on. So in this case, it's Hollywood. And they have all of this power and all of this control, and they act like they are untouchable. And then they go after victims that are basically falling into their lap. And this is a situation where you have one of Hollywood's biggest power players that could make or break somebody's career. The guy and, his companies were responsible for great movies over the years.
Yeah. Pulp Fiction, Shakespeare in Love, The King's Speech, like a lot of good classics.
Yeah. And that's, the guy was so high profile based on the type of work that his companies were doing. He had access to all of the talent, the up and coming actresses, the hairstylists, anybody that was around a film set or that was trying to make it in that industry. A lot of them he had access to. And so he sexually abused women that he knew he was in such a position of power that you're not going to go and do anything or say anything because I'll ruin your career. And no one's going to believe you if you did say anything. That's this attitude that these rich, powerful men have. And it's not just rich, powerful men. There's examples of women also, but mostly in the situations that we see and that we deal with, these are these cases like Jeffrey Epstein, like the Alexander brothers. They think they're untouchable. They think they can get away with behavior and treating women like objects because they think that these women are either not powerful enough to do something to them, or they just wouldn't, or they don't even think about the consequences. They just think they can do whatever they want. They can do whatever they please.
So it's funny you're saying that because it's always the same situation, just like looks different. But a lot of, and you've said this before in previous episodes, but a lot of the way he approached it was like similarly situated women, like we've said in the past. And they were like young in age, similar age group across the board. And he would get them to come to his hotel room or be alone with him some way, shape, or form. And, there was this one girl that was like they were out at a work dinner, and he said, we're all going to finish this at my hotel. Like, come, everybody's coming. And she went there. Nobody was there. There was another situation where he had I think it was one of his assistants that was like, come to my hotel and drop off some checks. And so she goes into the room and he has nothing but a hand towel around his waist. And obviously this man is massive, and he drops the hand towel. Like, they're just like, and it's always like, give me a massage. Like, can you just give me, or like, please like roll this out. Like, I'm not feeling like it's always starts that way. And then it ends he tries to then obviously further the sexual abuse, but it always starts with the similar facts, same like similarly situated people. It's always the same MO. And so like, I feel like the government, and I don't know exactly like obviously how much investigation they got into and how many people were actually willing to come forward and talk. But I know that a lot of people did sign NDAs, leading up to it, and they were scared to talk. And that's really the whole point of Me Too movement, is that people are trying to come and encourage people who are sexually assaulted or have been sexually assaulted to come forward and talk about their story and share their journey, not just for purposes of like prosecuting this individual, but for like their own
healing.
Sense of freedom.
Right.
And, yeah, exactly.
Right.
But obviously we've talked about like reasons why people choose not to even speak up on things like that.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, I was just getting into like stating that like, it's always kind of like the same type of MO.
Yeah. And that's why it's kind of interesting that it became problematic for the government's case, at least in terms of what the appellate reason was, that it became problematic for the government's case for them to bring in another person that basically bolstered or corroborated what the MO is, what his motive was, what his behavior was. I feel like there's got to be other ways to do that.
To charge the crime. They should have charged her as a victim.
Unless they couldn't because of a jurisdiction issue. If she was a victim from somewhere else that it occurred outside the jurisdiction, then that's not something. But that's what they're dealing with. Yeah. It wasn't like they were charging him. If it was a federal case and they can talk about things that happened anywhere in the country while it's going, then sure. But if we're in New York, you were talking about things that happened in New York. What did you do at a hotel in New York? And so that's, you get an issue. You have to, there's got to be a balance between what you can get into and what you can't and for what reason. And that's what the rules of evidence kind of allow us to do and also protect us from in certain situations. But, this is like when you start hearing the allegations and the pattern, the amount of victims, is a huge number.
I mean, there's 80 plus documented as of now with Harvey Weinstein specifically.
That's 80 women that said that it happened.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not everybody.
Right.
And we don't know, and you don't know what else he got into. Yeah. You have no idea. But that's just awful.
And there were some instances where there was this one woman, and there were people that ultimately they walked away successfully from being sexually abused by him, because there was this one woman and this other guy, actually, the two instances I heard where he was confronted, no, one girl was like, no, I don't want this. You're making me feel uncomfortable. And this is what happened. She locked herself in the bathroom. She ran from the bedroom in the hotel room, locked herself in the bathroom. And she's like, you're being naughty and I don't like that. Stay away from me. And he started bawling and was like, you don't like me because I'm fat, and started crying because of that. And then there was another instance with a male colleague that mentioned something to him that because people around him knew, and people now are saying that they did enable him. And some people are willing to go as far to say, some people are saying I enabled him and I really didn't know that I was doing that. And had I paid more attention, maybe I would have spoken up. But then there are other people that are actually saying I did willingly turn a blind eye because I didn't want to know more. I had a feeling that this was it was kind of ignorance is bliss.
Because people didn't want to lose their jobs. They had access to the top of Hollywood because of who they were associated with or working for. They don't want to lose that position and
exactly
be the one that, ruins it.
Yeah. And it was a male director that was literally saying that. He's I was in survival mode, just trying to make my money, get the fuck out. Which fine, fair. People are literally just trying to get to work and be hardworking people. And he said something to him and he broke down crying. Another situation, he broke down crying and he was if my wife finds out, da 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 da, and these were all consensual. And it's he was just saying I don't want to be painted as a cheater and all these things. And so it's just interesting that with him, his default is to cry and beg for mercy. And it worked.
Such bullshit.
I know, the cry, but you don't like me because I'm fat is crazy. I was you nasty person. See, you are disgusting.
It's interesting that it was that as opposed to just, if you don't do this, your career in Hollywood is over. Yeah. When you look at the guys Roger Ailes from Fox News, or you look at Epstein, or you look at some of these guys, their whole thing is you're the model company owner that helped Epstein. When you think about Jean-Luc Brunel, when you think about these people, they what they do to these women is they tell them that you will not have the life and career that you want unless you do this. Or if you tell anybody about this, you will lose out on the life and career that you want. And that's what they hold over their head. This guy, that fear was definitely there for all the women that were involved because they all knew it. It didn't need to be said. It was implicit. But his default was to cry. He just cried like a bitch about it.
Literally. What?
And that's...
I mean... Just, I don't know. It's crazy. Shows the wound behind the behavior, but.
Well, no, I think it was a manipulation tactic.
100%. But like, it's crazy.
I don't wound.
Yeah.
No way.
No,
He's just an asshole.
I think it shows that you're just like a little bitch boy behind all of that for real.
Potentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
if he's really crying and he's really in his feels
I'm sure
in that moment,
I'm sure he really is in his feels, but like maybe like I don't know. I'm just saying like people act out of not like when you're doing something bad, you're not feeling good inside. So it just goes to show like that you're really willing to do anything to just try to get out of the situation that you're in any capacity.
Let me ask you a side question. He was very much like, maybe this is not a side question. This may be an observation.
The main question.
He was like a slob. Like he looked disgusting. Like, or maybe just everything we see now, he just looks.
Yeah, he looks like shit.
Like awful. Like, how did he ever think that would be something that he would be able to get away with like any of this? I don't know. I feel like that has to. He knew he was a slob. You know what he missed out on?
Yeah, he did know. What?
You know what he missed out on? He missed out on being able to take Ozempic and all the other shit because he's been in jail all these years. He probably would be out on his skinny shit, and now he would be doing his same fucking bullshit, but he would be skinny now. Bet you.
Him and the Gilgo Beach guy.
Rex Heuermann is not taking, or Heuermann, whatever his name. He is not taking Ozempic. That guy is not shooting up Ozempic. No way.
They both need to go.
Yeah. But Harvey Weinstein, I'm telling you right now, if he was out and about, because he's like rotting away. Like he looks like death.
So bad.
Bet you he would be out on his skinny game. Maybe get some hair plugs. He'd be a whole different guy. But he'd still be a scumbag. So
yeah,
that wouldn't change. But I just, you look at me, he's just such a slob. Like I don't.
I think it's
so
crazy.
Was Roger Ailes. Although Roger Ailes wore a suit, but Roger Ailes looked like a slob also.
Yeah, I don't know. The wheelchair doesn't help either for Weinstein.
Oh, I think they started the wheelchair shtick with him. And
you think this is a ploy?
I think it was at the beginning,
and now he's actually.
They've committed to the bit so much that he's like he became wheelchair bound.
I am so.
I think that the beginning that because they had a walker at the beginning and then the wheelchair.
Isn't that how it happens?
Yes.
Isn't that
so
the
is
progression?
It possible that his health is just regressing that badly that he needs? Yes.
Is it
but
reasonable?
I think it was a shtick initially, and it became this is what he did. I think he was using that wheelchair so long, and then now he's like, oh, I got to use it all the time.
That's really funny if that's the case, but whatever, he's committed to it. So
and there's no
we'll never know.
In prison.
Yeah, good luck in prison without Ozempic, Weinstein.
Oh my God.
So 2020 rolls around and the New York criminal trial begins, the first one. And the Manhattan District Attorney prosecutes Weinstein for crimes involving two women, which is Jessica Mann and Miriam Haley. And the incident with Miriam Haley occurred in 2006, and the one with Jessica Mann would have been in 2013. And the charges included rape, criminal sex acts, and predatory sex assaults. And ultimately, he was acquitted of predatory sexual assault and found guilty of criminal sexual act against Haley and a third-degree rape against Miss Mann and sentenced to 23 years in prison. So out of all of those 80-plus women, this resulted in a conviction of two women, which is crazy, like in New York.
Mm-hmm.
So ultimately, the key evidence at trial was testimony, obviously, from the victims, and then evidence on Weinstein's pattern of his behavior. And this is why it ultimately got reversed. So they presented testimony from other women who were not a part of the criminal charges. And this is where Weinstein's legal team makes their objections and preserve the issue for appeal. And they argue that because they allowed these witnesses to testify against him, the jury considered the facts that they testified to that were not related or gave any probative value to the charges that he was actually facing. And as a result, they were prior bad acts to just disparage his character and not to show that he was actually guilty of these crimes. And then, the appellate court agreed, or the majority of the appellate court agreed. So ultimately it was his conviction was overturned, and it's supposed to really protect the integrity of the proceedings. Like, this is a law that is in place to make sure that people are being tried fairly on the charges that they are facing and not on facts or bad things they've done that are not before the jury. So this, I think, was the right ruling from the court. I don't think that if you're somebody that is not a victim in a crime and you're not an independent witness that either witnessed the crime or is an expert or investigated the crime or able to really rebut anything related to what the state is showing or the government is showing, you should not be on the stand.
Well, I think the question is, how far can the state go to prove your modus operandi?
Yeah, your pattern.
How far can they go? Because that's really what this comes down to, is can you parade in a bunch of people that are all going to say he did the same thing to me if you're not charging him for those crimes? And the answer is, it obviously, like everything else in the law, is it depends. Because you can get into certain facts and you can talk about the fact that it would be, this is another actress, the same type of person that he went after. This is in a hotel room massage setup, just same type of thing that he does after. And like try to show it. I understand that, but there's gotta be nuance to that. And there has to be, you have to do it under the law so that way it's not just a character assassination.
Yeah.
And it's difficult.
It's hard to do as a prosecutor.
Yeah. You're threading a needle, really, is what you have to do there. And that's difficult to do. A lot easier when you have a lot of your victims in the same state and in the same place. That's a lot easier to do.
Well, I think the problem is also they prosecuted two people. You had 80 plus witnesses.
Well, we don't know. We have 80 people now that have said he did stuff.
But at the time,
we don't necessarily have, and we don't know how many of those 80 can be really corroborated or supported by independent evidence. We don't know. We don't know any of that.
That's probably what the problem was. I'm assuming.
And not for all 80, but for some of them, they're probably difficult to get evidence on. And not that I'm doubting that there were 80 victims. I imagine there were. But there, you know what? The 80 people that came out may not have all been victims.
Yeah, because he was acquitted of one.
Correct.
So.
Right. So
basically the court ruled that this was shown to show his propensity to commit a crime and not to show that he actually did commit the crime, which is a problem.
Right.
So even if, basically what the judge would have to analyze is, one, can this come in to show that there's a pattern? Yes. Okay. But if it comes in, is it still highly prejudicial, and will the jury conflate the issues to show that this is someone that would act in conformity with this act? Is that the conclusion they're coming to?
Right. Is the jury looking at it and saying, we're finding guilt in this other act that you're pointing out to us?
Correct.
And that's not something they should be assigning any guilt to.
Exactly.
And that's what the problem is.
And that's exactly what happened here. So unfortunately or fortunately for Harvey Weinstein, it was reversed. And that's a really, it's a big deal because it's an abuse of judicial discretion standard, which is I think the highest. I'm not an appellate lawyer, but I know it's one of the highest standards to reverse, because judges have discretion for a reason.
Right.
So you really, when the higher court reviews that, they should not really question the discretion if it's within the confines of the law. And so they basically, had a split decision on it, but still, I think that's a big deal when they reverse on abuse of discretion.
Yeah, I agree.
So 3 judges strongly disagreed, and the dissent argued that the pattern evidence is critical in sex assault cases. And I think that goes to show, based off of everything we've talked about leading up to this episode and in other episodes, is the same pattern, the same way that Epstein had everybody come in and when he was on his massage table, same idea there. Mm-hmm. So they noted that in the dissent. The majority decision couldn't make it harder to prosecute serial offenders because now they're creating law in New York, at least, that puts a restriction on their ability to, or the government's ability to be able to bring in prior bad acts in future cases. And one dissenting judge warned the decision could harm survivors of sexual violence. So, like, this is something I think the court took, like, they did not take lightly, but they also have to weigh, despite the sensitivity of the case, they have to weigh the, like, fairness of, like, everything that went down in the trial. And, like, that's their job ultimately. So that's I guess, a summary of the appeal. And he was ultimately retried in 2025, last year, after the conviction was overturned. And there is, so the key difference here is the retrial began in April 2025. The court limited the use of uncharged misconduct testimony, and prosecutors relied heavily on the direct accuser's testimony, more so in the second trial. So they retrial found guilty of the criminal sex act against Miriam Haley and acquitted on one sex assault charge. He was facing on this one 3 charges or 3 counts against 3 different individuals, and that third one was a hung jury today. So that
was
is
the one that was a hung jury today. Was that on Jessica Mann?
Yes,
and that's the one that was a hung jury the last time.
Yeah.
So a jury has hung on that twice.
Correct.
On that specific count.
Yes. Yeah. So, and this time they announced today that the majority were going to acquit him, because you can always poll the jury after they say, you know, we can't come to a conclusion. And so I don't remember the number, but it was a majority.
It was 9-3.
Oh, 9-3.
Yeah. Nine were in favor of acquitting him and 3 were not.
Which is crazy.
And 3 wanted to convict him and they couldn't come to an agreement. So the deadlock results in a mistrial on that charge. And now the state has to decide whether or not they want to try him again. Now they're down to 1 charge.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
he was acquitted of one.
They'll probably appeal again the one that he was actually convicted on.
Well, I mean, if they want to pursue that charge too, because he is serving a sentence and he did get convicted of one of them.
Right. But that one is the one I think they probably will appeal again. And then they'll see if it comes back, and then it would be 2 counts that this would be going on.
True.
Again, if the appeal comes back again. But I mean, the bottom line is, for everybody listening that has not seen a recent picture of Harvey Weinstein, he looks like shit. He's not making it out. I mean, he's not getting out. He's
going to die in there, yeah.
He's going to die.
He's rolling into the courthouse.
So his Los Angeles conviction for 16 years, I think, is a life sentence for him.
Yeah, that's true.
If he serves all 16, then it's...
I'm like,
I don't even know if he'll make it 16
I'm like, how are they even going to get him all the way over to California? This man's going to die.
They should make him pay for it. Put him in
a private jet. No, he can ride the Greyhound like everybody else.
I'm sure they fly him across. I don't think but I don't know. I have no idea. I really don't know.
I don't know how they do that.
I wonder how his lawyers are getting paid.
His brother, maybe?
I guess so. Family must be paying. Family must be paying.
They got money, honey. This ain't no Murdaugh trial.
Well, all the 80 victims victims in that case, a lot of them I'm sure have filed some sort of civil cases.
And even before the civil cases came about, while this stuff was brewing and happening, people were making complaints, and he was paying them out and making them sign NDAs.
Right.
So he's been paying people off.
He's been paying people out on these
for sure.
And I'm sure he's going to have to continue paying people out on these if he's got any open civil cases.
Yeah, but I don't know. It doesn't seem like money's an issue for this man. But
I don't think he's going to have any assets by the time this is done.
Yeah.
I bet you he doesn't have any now. He's probably out. He's probably tapped.
Should be.
Although maybe not. Who knows? He was I mean, he probably had to have hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he has assets too that are still in his name, but
I doubt that. I would imagine he did what Epstein did and put the assets in other people's names and trusts and everything else.
I don't know. We're talking about a man that cried when he was confronted with his sex acts.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that man doesn't know how to speak to a lawyer.
I I don't know. I'm like,
and a man like that definitely has.
I don't respect you.
Wills and trusts and everything else.
Not that I would respect him if he didn't cry, but just like kind of the.
No.
Yeah. So, anyways, like I said, this ruling for Harvey Weinstein is going to be something that's going to affect future sex cases in New York, at least, and how prosecutors use pattern evidence and the balance between the fair trial rights of the defendant and victims' testimony and their rights, too. I'm sure they have some sort of equivalent of Marsy's Law in New York for victims' rights. But
they definitely have the federal law there for victims' rights.
Yeah,
but I don't know
but that
exactly
doesn't apply.
I don't know what their state law is if they have one.
So
this raises a question that we've addressed before. And how do you defend a case when you have dozens and dozens of witnesses all saying your client did the same thing, or people or different victims accusing your client of doing the same thing? How do you defend them? And the answer is you go into whatever mitigation posture you possibly can. You look at all of the evidence and review it and see if there's any legal issues that can be attacked on those issues, and file the appropriate motions that should be filed to fight the issues that you can fight to reduce and mitigate the situation as best as possible. And then you ultimately make a decision. It's like any other case. You decide whether or not you want to take a plea or you want to go to trial. And that's just like any other case. That's how it ultimately goes down. It doesn't matter how big or small the case is. The decision at the end is always the same. You're either going to take a plea, you're going to go to trial. And that's, unless obviously it gets dismissed, you file a motion and it gets dismissed, absent that scenario. So I think with dozens of accusers, it doesn't change much of the strategy for how you defend a case, because it's just additional evidence.
Well, his defense here was that they were consensual.
Correct.
So,
which is not that's something that we've discussed in the past, whether it's talking about consensual or the reliability of the witness. Okay, let's say a few of those accusers are just in it for the money or just bullshit.
I just think
but then
that
after a certain point,
I agree with that. But it's a little different because they only had two people to say that we're victims of these crimes. So that's why I think that this situation, even though it's more isolated in the court when we're looking at it in the courtroom, even though outside the courtroom there's so many accusers with the same pattern.
That's the court of public opinion. That's not the court. You're right.
Exactly.
That's a really good point that you make.
So that's why I'm thinking yes, but yeah, I mean that's why it's I'm not saying he's innocent, but obviously
obviously not.
Yeah, he was found guilty and there have been, but even there, and speaking on what you were saying, I think you were getting here is that digging into the victim's background and showing that they are an unreliable or uncredible witness. There was this one individual that accused Harvey Weinstein a few years back and actually made a report to law enforcement. She was from another country and had moved here, made a report to law enforcement. Law enforcement said if we'll send you in with a mic, and they record her interaction with him. She goes to dinner with him. I think they go into they literally almost get this girl raped, but whatever, she makes it out and they get the recording. And that was another situation that they ended up digging into her past and seeing that she was receiving in whatever country she came from. She had a sugar daddy for I don't know how long, for some time. And she was giving him sex and he was paying her money. And so they were using this against her to
show that that's her pattern. That's bullshit.
His attorneys were doing that, I think, to try to keep it from coming. Yeah.
Understood.
Yeah. To show that she was not exactly
show that her pattern is sugar daddy.
Yeah.
That's
yeah. That it was consensual. That it was consensual.
Okay. Right.
That she's lying.
She likes having sex with old guys, obviously.
Yes,
so
exactly.
That's not a thing. So she can't claim it. Right. Okay. But still has to be consensual.
Yeah. Right. But the thing is with Epstein, it's different because he was really targeting specific girls that were coming from areas of vulnerability.
Yep.
Versus I'm trying to distinguish Harvey Weinstein from Epstein, and it's very hard to put it into words, but I think those details matter, especially when it makes it into the courtroom. Like having multiple witnesses, having the same pattern with all of those witness victims, and also like getting into their history all across the board in front of the jury doesn't make a difference to the jury because it just actually goes to further show that this person is guilty because he was going towards this vulnerable community of girls versus Harvey Weinstein saying that it was consensual with two women in front of a jury.
I think he is similar to Epstein. I think he's similar to the Alexander brothers, and I think he's similar to Bill Cosby. I think they, the thing that the sexual assault links all of those cases, obviously. The preying on women in your sphere specifically, except for Epstein, but preying on women for the Alexander brothers, it was women that would be attending the types of parties or the social life the nightlife that they were involved in. For Weinstein, it's the women that are in Hollywood and these young actresses that are trying to make it in Hollywood, and they're facing this executive. It's also just like Roger Ailes at Fox was.
Yeah.
That's the same. It's very similar because that was these, young women that were trying to make it in the news industry, and he would put them in horrible situations and or make them do things that they didn't want to do at the risk of them losing their career.
Yeah.
I think all these guys are very similar. It's just a matter of, Epstein wasn't charged with forcibly raping anybody, but that doesn't mean that he didn't do that.
Yeah.
The Alexander brothers, and also that's not to say that Weinstein didn't do some of the things that these other guys did.
Right.
Where, who's to say that there wasn't some sort of sex trafficking angle? Like, we don't know whether or not there was drugs ever used in any of these situations. We don't know if there was women that traveled across state lines to meet him and these things happen. Like, we don't know any of that. I'm sure there's some of that stuff.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot we don't know.
So a lot of it crosses over, and it's like the federal government could have easily probably picked up and did their own case against him as well. I mean, so it's like, the truth of the matter is if your pattern of conduct is widespread enough, there's going to be a way to get you.
Yeah.
And whether that's the federal government or the local government doing it. And if the local government isn't doing it or can't do it effectively, which is what happened, unfortunately, in Epstein, the federal government should step in and do that.
Oh, yeah,
and should step in and do that. In Weinstein, the local government in New York is struggling to get at least one of these charges they can't get at all.
Yeah.
The other one they keep getting hung on, and then they've got one they've got. Okay. So, they're struggling, and they wanted to bring a case against him more than they had the evidence to bring cases against him, I think is what it comes down to.
And I think that if they had the evidence, they probably would have given it to the DOJ. Like, why wouldn't they have given it to the AUSA? Like, why wouldn't they have actually gone forward with it? They probably took a look at it, I'm assuming, and they were like, this is not, this does not pass the
I don't know why
test.
the DOJ never didn't charge him.
I mean, based off of the results or the verdicts that are coming out, it's like, I mean,
wasn't as much
the evidence is not as good quality as we thought.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe the good quality evidence is buried somewhere because of the NDAs that were signed and all the people that are not speaking out. But
because there's so many people that took cash payouts, it destroys their credibility.
That, and also, like, why would you want to relive it? Like, you already kind of got what you needed out of it. Like, if you don't want to, like, rehash it, and you don't have to.
And that was one thing that was so interesting to me about the Alexander brothers case, is that there were girls, at least one of the girls was super wealthy.
Yeah, she didn't need money.
There was no need for money whatsoever. And that to me was like,
it was more about principle.
That was the strongest, like, to me, as a lawyer, as a juror, like, that would be such a strong point, is that there's a person that you have ironclad. They're not in this for the money. You can show that. They're not in this for needing a job. They're not in this. So, like, that, one of the power struggles of, them being the predator having some control over the person's life or job or something like that, that's completely eliminated.
Yeah.
That makes that witness so much more
I agree.
powerful.
I totally agree with you.
And that, unfortunately, you don't have that I don't think you really have that in Weinstein's situation, although some of his victims are very high profile. Yeah,
he did.
And I'm pretty sure the actual #MeToo was an actress
that coined it.
Said it in one of her tweets.
Oh.
And that's I think it was, I really want to say it was Alyssa Milano, but I'm not sure if that's
I don't know.
right. And I don't want to be wrong on that. So I might be.
Sorry,
But
Chuck.
yeah. But this is just, this is one of those situations where they got him. He's not getting away with this anymore. They got him. Whether he is going to be convicted of only one count in New York or whatever in California, if that's all that it's going to be, he's done. I don't think there's a way that he's ever getting out, and that's
yeah. I mean, he's probably going to die soon, so.
He looks like shit.
Yeah, if you guys didn't hear our opinion on what he looks like
Yo,
shit.
He looks awful.
It was Alyssa Milano that made it a Me Too thing, but the person that coined it was Tarana Burke, somebody that.
Okay, so
but just,
I was I knew.
But she made it relevant.
I have that weird thing where I can retain certain very strange trivia facts.
I had no
I don't know. What if I'm sitting there watching Jeopardy? Now I just answered a question. Oh my God, the guy's a genius. He looks like the guy. They think he's so smart.
Bingo. Yeah. Or whatever.
Jeopardy.
Celebrity. Yeah, exactly.
Not Celebrity Jeopardy.
I was going to say celebrity. Well, yeah.
Although if this podcast gets big enough.
Listen, you never know.
I don't know. Celebrity Jeopardy, those questions are just as difficult.
Yeah.
They just get smart celebrities.
I suck at Jeopardy. Don't ask me to do it.
Good. Not great, but pretty good.
You'll be repping CBWAW at the next Jeopardy show. Yeah, exactly.
At one of our networking events, we'll do a Jeopardy.
We did bingo last time. We'll do Jeopardy next time.
Yeah. A networking Jeopardy would be difficult to pull off, but you know what?
I'm going to try to find a way.
We can figure it out.
Yeah, we will.
I believe in us.
All right. Well, if you liked listening, make sure you comment, and subscribe. We're on all platforms. Come back with a warrant.pod. Leave us a 5-star review and make sure you subscribe to our weekly newsletter. And if you don't like listening to us,
come back with a warrant. If you're a lawyer sitting on great stories but not sharing them, you're leaving opportunities on the table. Story Leads has worked with over 100 attorneys, written more than 8,000 LinkedIn posts for lawyers, and helped drive over $35 million in case value from LinkedIn referrals. Being a great lawyer doesn't matter if no one sees it, and Story Leads helps make sure they do. Make sure you check them out in the show notes.
Question: real estate in California. What the Seriously, can someone help? What's an escrow? What's an ARM? What is an REO? What is pre-approval? Can I get pre-approval? Why is inventory so low? Why are interest rates so high? Oh, interest rates not so high? How low is low? How not so high is right?
Before you go down the road of questions, get expert help at championsofhome.com. California Association of Realtors. Who's your realtor?